Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we were sitting here having a men's breakfast, just kind of talking, and I said, you know what? Let me turn the camera on. So we at a bed and breakfast in Detroit, and we just having a conversation, and one of y'all sent me a message on Instagram, and it was about, it was a post, it was from a young lady, and it said that she's saving herself until marriage, and she's dating this guy, and the guy said, well, we should go Dutch because I'm just like sex, I'm reserving my money for marriage. And to be honest with you, it kind of made me chuckle. Because I don't know if it's a real post. Like, I've never heard of that, and it just sounds kind of genius. So I feel like it's coming from the dark side. Somebody done put this out there to say, hey, this is a good rebuttal. And I feel like a lot of guys gonna be using that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, me and Dave, we've been married, we've been in relationships, we a little older than Caleb.
Yeah.
And so, but when y'all hear that, what you think of it, Dave?
I don't understand it to a certain extent because I don't see nobody waiting on a date to go with a woman who they just know this woman is going to be their wife. So you're not going to, normally when you date until you find someone. So it's like to say that you're not going to spend any money on a date, it's like, that's unrealistic in my opinion.
Right. Because I'm trying to understand it. And now, being married, to me, it's almost like, it sounds good. Like, I'm like, man, that's a good rebuttal. Like,
Man, I'm almost with it.
I'm almost like, man, that sounds kind of good. But like what Dave's saying is like, okay, so who do you spend the money on? Unless he's saying, it sounds like he's saying he's going Dutch until he meet the one, he get engaged, and they get married.
Yeah.
And then he paying for his wife.
What I do like about it is the fact that he believe in marriage. That marriage is the end goal.
Right.
So, I mean, in today's day and age of dating, and then a lot of guys are scared who are successful or quote unquote high value men. They're scared of meeting a woman that's a gold digger.
Mm-hmm.
And so, or just an older guy that might be established and have a little money. It's kind of like, man, you want to be careful. You don't want a woman that just wants you for your money. So to make sure that you want me for me, how about I just not spend no money on it? It sounds like it's like, okay, we're going to date, but when we go somewhere, you pay your portion, I'm going to pay my portion,
Right,
so
right.
It's different, but, maybe.
Right. Now, in women, honestly, I've seen, because I brought up the topic about saying like, okay, if you go on a date, I've said to women on the first date, offer to pay your half so that the man doesn't assume that he's getting something. Because, and I didn't realize that it was other people out there speaking on relationships that were saying, if a man pay for a date, sex need to be on the table.
Right.
Like, you need to be ready to do something. I didn't know that men were saying that, but I just know, being a man, a lot of men will do something and expect something in return, and they will equate money for a date with sex. And when I said that, offer, I said offer. I didn't say pay your half. I didn't say fight over the receipt. I ain't say chase the waiter and force your card in their hand.
Yeah.
I said offer to pay your half.
And I always appreciate that. As a single man, when I go out on a date, my mentality, I'm never gonna let a woman pay on a date, but I at least appreciate you willing to if we think about marriage being the end goal, you willing to pitch in with me, but
Right.
I'm never gonna ask. That's that southern gen in me, I'm gonna
Right.
pay for it, but wow, I noticed that wow, you took the effort to say, hey, I'll pay if I have to.
Right.
I think if you're dating with purpose, generally you're going to build up to the dates that you got to worry about them actually trying to take advantage of you on. Generally, you're not going to go on a date to Ocean Prime on a first date with somebody and you don't know nothing about them, you still learning about them. So if you go on an expensive date with somebody, you ain't really trying to get, you probably telling them like, we're going here because I'm expecting something here. But if you go on a date to like a little coffee house or something like that, or
Right.
just for like cakes or pastries or something
Right.
like that for a first date, at least now it looks like you're trying to get to know them. So no, you wouldn't want them to try to or offer to pay for something like that, but you build up to those big dates. So by the time you get up there, okay, now you're a lot more confident. You feel a lot better when you say, okay, I got you, baby. I got you. I'll take care of this.
Hey, that's a good perspective. And I have not thought of that.
Mm.
Dave, you might need to go. You might need to go because you're a married man. I have not thought about, and you know what? Dave just showed me something, and that's good for you too whenever the Lord called you out there. Is I remember going on a date. When I was out there dating, it was right before I met my wife. I took this young lady to a steak restaurant, and the ticket said $60, and I had $75 to my name. But I was trying to show out. I was trying to do the most, and she had a salad, she had a steak, and the salad wasn't free. And I remember being mad after the thing. And now that you said, that should have been something to where I did something a little smaller, got to know her, because I ended up not liking her. Because she argued too much. She liked to debate. She liked to debate too much. And so I ended up not liking her, and that was the only date we went on. And we hung out like 1 or 2 more times, and I was mad. So now I think about it, that's what's making these guys mad. They doing like I did.
But the other thing is too, the overall like arching theme is that a lot of guys don't know how to look at a woman for who she is. Just as certain women objectify men, men objectify women. And so they get caught up in her beauty and never see if she's carrying substance. So though, you know, we were talking last night about my van, I'm at a place now where I can immediately look at a woman and I can read her and tell like, nah, she just want, you know, a guy with money. So I'm not even going to approach her or, you know, go on a date with that type of woman, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. As men, you got to learn, if you're in a position where you're pursuing dating for marriage, or if you're just out here trying to get something, yeah, it's a transaction. You know, you're going to get used and abused, because that's the same thing. If you, that type of guy that you expect sex after, you know, a dinner or whatever, then you're in the right lane, because that's where your spirit and your mind is at. So that's what you're attracting to you. But when you get serious and you're looking for a wife, it's a totally different eye, and God will reveal that to you as you're out dating. But I don't know, it's just my perspective.
But even before the date, the conversation, you're going to learn a lot in just a long conversation. Most of the time, if you vibing with somebody that you first meet, that conversation ain't going to be just like 20, 30 minutes.
Right.
When I first met my wife, we literally talked from the time I got to the house to the next morning. And just conversation. It's just because it's like, man, you know what I'm saying? You know I got a lot of stories. So it's like, it's just conversation. So it's like, now it's like when you do go on a date, it's like, I pretty much have an understanding if she is looking for something, if she's not. She know what I am, I know what she is. So it's like, we can make a decision. Okay, let's go. We could go to Ocean Prime now. We could go somewhere, because I got an understanding like who you are now. Because it's like the conversation is going to be the biggest thing to help you determine what type of woman you're dealing with.
That's big. What's the longest conversation you ever had with a woman?
On the first date?
Not even the first date. What I would say like first time that y'all sat down and have a formal conversation.
Man, it's generally been over the phone, but I done been on the phone with somebody for 4 hours.
4 hours?
That's
okay.
good.
And my wife and I, it was 6 hours that when we sat down, we talked for 6 hours. And like you said, when you talk that long, when I know when I got up, I called my mom and I said, I just met my wife.
Wow.
I called my sister. I said, I just met my wife. And I called my closest homeboy and I said, I just met my wife. And when I talked to my wife later, she said, after that conversation, I told my roommate I could marry that guy. And so, like what you said, when you had that long conversation, and I didn't think about that. So I had a long conversation with my wife. I met her after the other young lady. But then after talking to my wife for 6 hours, I would take her out to dates like Popeyes. Popeyes chicken.
Because you got to understand it.
And
now.
we would sit down, or Applebee's, you know. Like, we didn't go to the steak restaurant. And she was cool with it. That was actually her first time having Popeyes.
But I think at that age bracket, it's a little bit more understandable, you know?
Right.
But like in today, like at being 28, and I'd say like, hey, you know, we're going to go meet at the Waffle House. A girl going to look at me crazy. She's not even going to show up, you know?
Right. But see, that's the thing. Like, if you can have a long conversation and get to know somebody, then it's like you still have that understanding to where now she know you. But I think what we thinking about too, and like what that post was about, it's about like that first date when you going out or y'all dating, but you really don't know each other. Really ain't had that deep conversation, you know, to where you have that understanding. And when I hear it, I feel like the guy's just kind of being, if that's real, I feel like the guy's being petty, and it's a great response. Like, it trip you up.
Yeah.
It's a great response. Like, I just got to be honest about that. Like, man, that's genius.
Yeah,
and it's like you listen to it, it's like, man, he ain't wrong, but do I agree 100%.
Right.
You know?
And I feel like it is a selfless place for a man that for us to be like, hey, if I'm dating, a part of dating is spending money. Like that's a selfless place to be in. It's a very mature place to be in to say, if I'm dating, money is a part of dating.
Right.
And if I can't afford to pay for a date, then I shouldn't be dating. And now I was thinking too, like, what I've heard is a lot of arguments over, don't go on no coffee date. Don't go on no coffee date because he just trying to be cheap, and that's a cheap little date. How y'all feel about that?
She already had the conversation for moving forward.
Yeah.
Because it's like, especially if you don't know the person,
right?
We can't put a price tag on the date we going on if I know nothing about you. Let me get to know you first. Let's have a conversation and grow. So now, okay, if we do, like you say, we get to know each other. When you do go to Popeyes, now it's like, okay, we know each other. It's like we hanging now rather than a date, if that makes sense. Right. So it's like now we're not necessarily in a relationship, but we have a relationship to a certain extent. Like we're getting to know each other before we actually sit up here and go out here.
Hey, that's powerful that you said that, Dave. What you?
And as a single man, I hang out at coffee shops because that's where I go and I do business. You know, I go and sit on my laptop, do work. So that's a place that I'm comfortable at already. You know, so I frequent at a lot of coffee shops, so I'm gonna go and that'll be part of the conversation. I'm like, hey, you know, I've had this chai tea latte here and I think it's really great. You know, I want you to try it.
Right.
And dates don't always have to cost money. You know, like I live in South Florida, so there's a bunch of places where it's by the bay or by the water where we can just go sit and talk. It's a public space where you can feel safe to meet me in public, and we could just walk and talk and sit by the water. You know, or go sit in a park. You know, because I'm also an outside guy. So when I date, I try and date around things that I enjoy. So as I'm introducing you to it, I'm introducing you to a piece of me to see if we mesh well there. You know?
Right. So what would y'all say about a woman who says, "No, that's cheap. That's inexpensive. Don't take me on no free date." Like, what did that say about her? Like,
I'm a Dutch turtle. I'm keeping my money, man. Oh yeah, let's go. We can go there. I'm gonna just be petty and go. I'm gonna just be petty and go. When she offer and say, you know, I'm gonna pay for it, I say, go ahead, Lord. Right. You got it.
And you know what though? I agree with that. Mm-hmm. And so there's 3 men, 2 married men, 1 single man. You know, we older than you 10 years or so, and we all agree with that. And that's what I be trying to tell women. Like, listen. This ain't just this stuff ain't just from bad men. Like I'll say, hey, go on a coffee date. That way you drinking coffee or tea or whatever, Starbucks or whoever got, and it ain't about the money, but it's about the conversation. Mm-hmm. Because when you go on a real date, anyways, on the first night, second night, third night, you don't even know each other, so you kind of don't want to eat messy. Like, you getting chicken wings or you getting a burger. It's messy. So it mess up the conversation.
Man, that let me know about you. That let me know how comfortable you are in yourself. It's just man, I'm about to eat and be me without going too crazy. Right. But I think sometimes we think too much on it. We think too much on the aesthetics and the physicality of it. But just seeing, like, do we align spiritually? You know, like, is there a mental stimulation when I'm around you? You know, do we both see substance in one another? Like, the world has gotten so caught up at being advertised at every day that dating has become the same way. It's gamified, you know, to where it's just like it's just a play.
Like I said, it's like when you go on a date and you sit over here picking expensive restaurants to inexpensive restaurants to hangout spots and stuff like that. That's part of what you're saying. Like, you shouldn't have to be thinking about how much you're going to spend on a date when you're trying to get to know somebody, because you want to try to get to know at least a little bit about them before we even go on a date. Right. Especially here, like, you don't want to just go on a date that you just met with somebody and you don't know them, and then you got to worry about some stuff popping off.
Right.
And I will say, too, just as a single man, like, honestly, if I did hear a woman say that on the first date, that's automatically a red flag for me. You know? So really and truly, like, I'm going to try and avoid the date. I don't even really want to hang out with you.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now, do y'all think it changed if a woman is 50 years old, like her expectations of a date. Do you feel like if you was a 50-year-old man, would a coffee date be disrespectful?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No.
I think it's the fact somebody taking time out of their day to interact and get to know you. You know, that alone says a lot, you know, because people are busy. You know, people got a lot going on. And so if somebody say, hey, I just want to get to know you and I'm going to etch out some time, we got to be thankful for somebody's time and not so caught up on, you know, the scene.
Right, yeah. And I agree with that. So this what I think for all of y'all that's dating. I really think that when it comes to dates, there should be a build up, just like when you start driving. You're a student driver, they got the sticker on the car if you're doing that, you got a permit, then you get a driver's license, and you build up. You got a normal car, then you get money, you got a faster car. And I feel like we should do that in dating so that it's cool if you go to the state park. And well, I wouldn't say state park because if it's a serial killer, you dead. But let's say the coffee shop, and then you get to know each other. And if you feel like y'all mesh, then it could be a restaurant, and then it could be the next time even nicer restaurant. Or as you get to know each other, and you have that staple versus just putting everything on money and just jumping right out there and focusing so much on, oh, how much did this date cost? Because I think today, like you said, because it's gamified, I think a lot of women feel like, oh, if he take me out for coffee, he don't like me, he don't respect me, and he doesn't value me. But if he takes me out for a steak or something on that level, oh, he's serious about me. And I think it's becoming that mind game.
I think what we got to look at and kind of gauge is like, okay, before or after the date, did he text and say like, you know, hey, I'm on the way, you know, and then like after the date, hey, text me when you get home, or like, let's talk, like on his effort. You look at his effort, you know, and not, again, just so caught up on the physicality of things, but the substance of he really trying to pursue me, get to know me outside of trying to objectify me and get in between my legs.
Right. And that's what I tell women too. I say a player actually will do everything to get a woman to drop her guards.
Right.
So a player, and that's what I was when I told you I took the young lady to a state restaurant on the first date. I was still a player. So a player will actually take a woman to a steak dinner, pay for it, pull out the chair, open the door, get everything to get the woman to relax, to drop her guards, to put her in a mindset of, whoa, he really into me, and then move in for the kill. Meaning trying to sleep with her on the first night.
Right.
But a genuine man may actually want to do something more simple, and I feel like a genuine man may be okay with going Dutch. If he's like a guy who may be socially awkward, and he feel like, oh, this women's empowerment, she offered to pay, I don't want to make her feel less than. I tell women, like, if he says, like you said, as a Southern gent, you'll never let her pay.
Right.
Because of just how you was raised and how you see it.
Right.
But what I tell women too, if a man agrees and lets her pay, don't just write him off. Because he could be somebody that he's new to dating. And when I think, because I was a dog, but when I think, okay, if I was a socially awkward guy, if I didn't date, and this woman said, hey, I want to pay my half. Let me pay my half. I may be thinking like, oh, is this the part of the women's empowerment movement? Is this
May not want to offend her.
May not want to offend her.
But that's what makes it like kind of hard with dating today, because I have run across some women like that who are very much like want to be alpha, you know. And so for not necessarily for me, but from other guys' perspective, yeah, I think you do think about that. Like, well, you know, women want equality all across the board. So it's just like, when do I, you know, am I overstepping? You know, if I don't allow her to pay or feel like she has a voice or a say so, you know. But then there's some women who will out of their mouth say that they want equality and want to be empowered as a woman, but still want a man to give them the world, you know.
Right.
And then I don't think that's fair. You know, we gotta pick a role that we want to play.
Right, right. And that is tricky because it's like, okay, do I go ahead? I think it's a conversation piece though.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say to the guys is like, if you're gonna pay and a woman offers to pay, I think before paying the bill, that's a quick little 2-3 minute conversation. Well, hey, what makes you want to pay? You know what makes you want to pay? Like why are you offering to pay? And then see how we'll see what she says, because she could just be doing it out of kindness, or she could be very adamant, and she may say, well, it's because I believe a relationship is 50-50. I'm gonna be working. I'm bringing my half. You bringing your half. And so that's how I want to get things started.
A way that I bring it into every first date, I always bring up submission. And not even in the sense of like, that's what I want, but it's just a conversation piece. It'll let you know like where a woman stands at.
You know? That's a big conversation.
Hey, listen, I don't got time to waste. I try and get straight to it, you know? So how do you feel about being a stay-at-home mom? Or just say something like that to like kind of poke the fire a little bit, just to see, you know, where you're at. Now, if she immediately blow up, that tell me something, you know? But I'm like, okay, explain a little bit more. You know, what did you see growing up? Why do you not like the word submission? Why is it such a dirty thing to you? But I say 8 times out of 10, whenever I ask a woman that, they're actually okay with it. You know,
Right,
I think once you show and express that you're a leader and a woman can just feel your presence, you know,
Right.
I feel like submission ain't a dirty conversation.
Right.
But I don't
And
know.
then, yeah, it's a dirty conversation.
I'm gonna bring it up.
It's like, and two, what I say is like, it's semantics. Meaning it's just like arguing over words. Like, so when you say submission, because it has been tainted and because so many men have abused it, the word itself may mean like, hey, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Wives, submit unto your husbands as unto the Lord. And so that's the biblical. But when you have abusive men who have abused it and like ran over it, I think now, because I was talking to my wife and I was like, hey, like on Friday, go to the joint account and transfer X amount of money to your personal account that you just could do whatever you need to do. Like just if you need to buy somebody a gift, if you planning something for our anniversary or whatever. And I was like, and that could just be, I think I said allowance. And she was like, She said, I said, so what's another word instead of like, because allowance, so just like submission, now this is allowance. Submission way worse than allowance.
Oh
So-
no, bro, allowance kind of heavy, man.
No, submission way worse.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
allowance is a literal word, like this is your allotment. Like this is so then we come up with something like or your stipend or something, but allowance is a literal word, meaning like this is what is allowed for my spending. So I get allowance, she get allowance. That's it's equal. It's not saying this your allowance and
Budget,
then
maybe
this,
budget. It's the budget for this.
you
Yeah,
said-
so yeah, the budget
we
is
came
another
up. We
word.
came up with another word. But what I'm saying is, if allowance will be offensive, what is submission?
I couldn't
But-
imagine telling my wife, or even bringing up submission in a conversation, implying that I would need her, or thinking about submission for my wife. She's instantly on the defensive. She's instantly.
But
upset.
okay,
My
so
wife
this is
would
the
be
back
upset
end of
too.
that. So when I bring it up, I allow her to give me her piece on it. But I say, well, submission is important to me because I understand as a man, I have to submit to you as well. You know,
Right.
I think a woman, it's kind of seen from the physical sense, but I also understand as a man, once I'm in a relationship with you, I'm letting my guard down and allowing my emotional, presence to be instilled with yours. And so that's influence. You got power over me now.
Right,
I
right.
feel safe with you. So submission goes 2 ways, but we only look at it one way.
Right.
So that's an opportunity for me to say that to her. And I think it also kind of eases it like, well, okay, I've never heard it like that, before that you submitted to me as well,
Mhm. And that does happen in marriage because, and I don't know what you'll say about that, Dave, to where it's certain areas to where I let my wife call the shots because that's her strength. And so that's submission. So like with their education, with the kids, schooling, me as a man, I'll do public school because I feel like you get a wide variety, you get to see everything. But my wife, she said private school because she want the Bible being taught. She Christian private school, not just private school. She want them to learn the Bible. She want them to be able to pray in school. She want a smaller classroom, and their curriculum is much higher than our public schools. So she want them to be ahead so that they prepare for whatever college they go to. If they go to an Ivy League, they ready. So I let her have that. That cost us $30,000 a year. So as a man who is working and providing, that's a big cost.
Yeah.
And that's just $30,000 for tuition, not including all the extra fees the school add on.
Right.
And then they emailing you every week for money.
Right.
So on top of the $30,000, we donated another $16,000 so that they could redo the bathrooms in the high school. So that's $46,000 in a calendar year.
State of the art bathroom.
You see what I'm saying? and the bathroom cost $21,000. I called on a business partner to give. No, we did 16. He did 5,000. So we were fundraising too. So as a man, that's a huge submission point.
Right.
Of like, hey, I'm gonna let you call the shots on that.
So that's why that whole Dutch thing kind of comes into play, because it's just like, especially for me in this phase of my life, you know, having spent my early 20s sacrificing to build a business, now I gotta marry somebody and say this is our money when I'm the one that did all the working for it. But it's like, that's a form of submission. I think it's just the conversation is generally one-sided. You
Right,
know?
right.
And
But
then that's the only thing to make it hard, because it's most common put on women. So it's like what you saying, having a conversation where you letting her know that you're submitting, that helps the conversation. But majority of the time, women are being asked to submit regardless of circumstance or regardless of the quality or how good the man is, how good the man handles the situation. So you would have to be able to, like you said, express her like, I'm submitting to you as well, because that's normally an argument most times.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what I say on money, and this is two things for everybody, and we'll wrap up here around 30 minutes. This is what I'll say. For one is, what I'm learning is you gotta make it specific for you and yours. So just how Caleb said, he brings up a submission type topic. If not the word, just say, hey, how do you feel about being a stay-at-home mom? And if he puts that inside of under submission, and then he says, you know, I have to submit to you too. That's a personal conversation, and the semantics matters to those two people, what that word means. Just like I said, the word allowance. And my wife, she said, no, let's use this other word. And we said this other word. And it really means the same thing, but it's just a different connotation. And at the same time, so understanding that, but then also understanding, and this is the thing with money. I feel like with money, and that's why this topic comes up, the hardest thing I found in marriage is for the money to be one. Like, we always feel like it's my money or it's your money, but very rarely is it our money. And then, like what you said, the danger is when you say our money, somebody doesn't treat it like our money. Somebody will treat it like, oh, that's your money or it's my money. But I feel like that's gonna be the key. Cause like I'll tell my wife, baby, anything I earn, this your money. But then when she go to spending it, I'm like, hold on, was that why you spent that? Like, so now I'm gonna be one like, hold on, okay, all right, now. So what we're gonna do is this over here is your money. And so, but I feel like marriage would be so much better if we was able to say this our money and not be like, this what I earn, this what you earn, this is your money, this is my money, and then we put this over here together in the joint to pay the bills. Because it caused such a big rift. But I don't know if it's possible for the mindset.
I think it just take time, because like I say, me and my wife still have conversations, because my wife does all our finances. Any trip we go on, I don't even know how much half our bills are. I just put the money in the account and she distributed. So it's like, but then it's like when we get to an argument, she's like, I paid for this. Wait a minute, which account did you take that out of? You know what I'm saying? So we normally have to have conversations, but it's like, it's a big thing.
It's a big thing, and my wife very independent. And so she treats the money like it's my money. And she will spend it like it's my money. But when her money, before we got married, my wife was she would get a refund check from school because she had scholarship from track, and she had academic money, and she had Pell Grants. So every semester she would get a $10,000 check. My wife was so good with her money. She would take and pay up her rent for them whole 6 months, pay up her phone bill, whole 6 months. She would pay up everything, and then she had money for her hair and nails every 2 weeks. She was really good with money, but it was her money. So now when she became a stay-at-home mom and I started working, she don't take that same practices that she had, because now it's almost like this your money.
Right.
And so I'm trying to get her like, baby, this our money. You know, treat it the same way you treated that money when you was in college. And I think that's the biggest rift with married couples is, and it's showing it's even starting in dating, to where like this guy saying, if you're not my wife, I'm not spending anything on you. And she's saying, well, if you're not my husband, I'm not sleeping with you. So the thing is she then gonna say, well, okay, well, if you spend on me, that means you see me as your wife, so I'm gonna sleep with you because now I see you as my husband. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's scary.
It's a game.
I think it's commitment. That's the commitment is the thing. Attention, anybody can give you their attention, you know, but everybody ain't gonna give commitment. I think that's the determining factor. If somebody really sees you as a potential partner, you know, they're strategically talking to you and say, hey, I want to build with you even throughout dating, you know, like after 3 months of talking, like, all right, let's go ahead and make this official. I want you to meet my family. You know, I think commitment is the thing, not how much money they spend on you. Now you're letting your guard down and sleeping with them, because you got plenty of people that have slept with one another, but nobody has given that verbal commitment of like, you know, we're together and we're pursuing marriage, you know,
Right.
And that's common today. That's why you got so many situationships, because y'all doing married folks stuff, but there's no titles. Like, I don't really know where we're at, you know, we just kind of kicking it or whatever. It's just like,
Right. Right. Hey, that's a good conversation, and we went over a little bit, but I want you to think about this. You know, just think about your views on money and how you see money. And when I get home today, I'm gonna have a conversation with my wife about money, and I'm gonna tell her, hey, baby, look, I know I'm working, but this our money. You know, she'll get little royalty checks from her book that she wrote, and I'm gonna tell her. And what I do is say, this our money. Anything that come from your name, that's your money. And I just do it like that, just as a man, to say, you know, have agency over that. But I'm gonna tell her, this is our money. Shift your mindset to see this as our money and treat it like our money, not like my money. And so I'm challenging you, if you're single, to think about your views on money. Because like they say, the leading cause of divorce is money. Now, I think it could be some infidelity in there too that ties in with the money problems. But this is a big conversation we gotta have. And also be able to define how you view the dating process and money being split and spent, going Dutch, and what does a coffee date say to you? What does an Applebee's date? Because I said, hey, you can go to Applebee's, and man, so many women went off in the comments, Applebee's. And then they was like, well, I just don't like Applebee's, I'll go to Chili's. So again, it's semantics. It's semantics. It's like, okay, but it's still the same level. They prices are basically the same. And so think about these things, because what I hate to see is a couple not come together and be married over something so small, like where we go on a date or whose money is it. And if we could get to that point and we could understand this and kind of look across the aisle and stop arguing, but seeking to understand, then be understood, I think it'd make a world of a difference. Any last words?
I was gonna talk about the prenup, but we ain't gonna
The
do
prenup. And see, now you're gonna have a reason for a prenup, and so we'll have to talk about that. I ain't have a reason for a prenup.
I'm still living your boy life.
Right, I ain't have a reason for a prenup. So, but that'll be another conversation, because somebody did ask that question too.
Yeah.
God bless y'all.